Welcome back to the Love You podcast. This is Evan, Marc, Katz. We're here to continue this conversation about how you can't do the wrong thing with the right guy and how you can't do the right thing with the wrong guy. And I know this is a painful topic because you could think of years of wasted time, energy, sunk into the wrong partner, and the time you spend lamenting afterwards, where you just sort of stay up late at night and think about what you did wrong, bounce it off your friends, read books, take a long dating hiatus. We call it a gaiatus. Right? All of those things are toxic, right? You hold on to this negativity and you beat yourself up over something that's not really your fault, right? It would be like getting angry that there was, here in California, there's an earthquake. It's not your fault that there's an earthquake, right? You just happen to live in California. So you happen to choose a guy who's not a great partner and you make it your fault. So let's think about that poor girl, Charlotte, right? We're gonna circle back to her in a second, but she's a perfect example of a delightful young woman who did everything right, had an amazing first month with a guy. Everything got derailed, right? And because it got derailed, she was convinced that it was her fault, right? When in fact, it was his fault. It was 100% his fault for the way he handled a disagreement. So a perfect relationship isn't always perfect, right? That's not supposed to be a word puzzle. You could have really an ideal partnership. I have an extremely happy marriage. But even in my extremely happy marriage, we have disagreements because we're not clones. We don't think alike on everything, right? So understand that disagreements are normal within a relationship. What's not normal and has been internalized as normal is the idea that a disagreement should then cause some sort of relationship instability, right? That's not true. I can't think of anything that I can do that would cause my wife to threaten to leave me. And I can't think of what I could do that would cause her to even yell. I mean, I'm not kidding. I can't think of what I could do that would elicit such a response. And that says something about her and it says something about us. The foundation of our relationship is so strong that, and it's like anything, you need a very strong foundation to build on top of. If you have a shaky foundation like Charlotte and Sam, well, then one thing topples the whole thing, right? So disagreements should not cause you to walk on eggshells. On another personal note, I don't give advice from any sort of pedestal. I mean, I'm a dating coach for women, and I'm married now for 8 years, and I have 2 kids, and I'm really happy, and I have this Love You program, and so I really try to walk the walk. But for many, many years before, I struggled in the same way that you're probably struggling. I went on 300 dates over the course of 10 years and was constantly torn between blaming the opposite sex and blaming myself for what my own failures, really. And I remember having a couple of girlfriends, 2 specifically in the 2000s, where I was really in love with them. And they said they were in love with me. The word love was used, but it was always very rickety. And I never knew when I was going to put my foot in my mouth, have to start backpedaling and get dumped. I remember taking one of my girlfriends to visit my mom in New York. And I said something and she just turned into ice. And I remember she had a conversation with my mom, and my mom said, "Listen, do you love him?" And she said, "Yes." And my mom said, "So shut the fuck up." I swear to God, that's the way it went down. And what she said in her inartful way was not that my son is a prize. She actually acknowledged, Evan could be difficult and challenging and all those things. She basically said, if you love him, you can't turn everything into a fight. You can't turn everything into a screaming match or a silent treatment. Right? If you love him, just let him be and let it be good enough. And if you can't love him that way, then dump him. Right? That's really what we're saying. So I've been through that where I never knew when I was going to be iced out or bitched out or dumped. I had one girlfriend dump me 3 times in 6 months, and I always came crawling back like a puppy dog because I was in love. That wasn't healthy. I might have loved her. I was crazy about her. I thought she walked on water. But she didn't feel the same way about me, and I never felt safe in the relationship because I knew that anything that came out of my mouth might be the thing that precipitates a big breakup, right? And I somehow thought, well, that's okay. That's love. That's normal. It's not. It's a miserable way to live life. Imagine that I got that woman to marry me, right? Somehow, right? She instead of dumping me every couple months, she married me. I would now be in a marriage where I never knew where something I could say would set someone off. That's not the way to handle conflict. And so if you have a partner where you never know where you stand, you need to have the courage to end that relationship. I know I'm just a guy on the internet. I don't know you. I don't know the nuance of your relationship or the depth of your love. But I could say definitively that that is not what a healthy relationship looks like. And you will be tortured by spending the rest of your life with someone who makes you feel that you can't be yourself with him, right? And that you always have to walk on eggshells and apologize. Going back to Charlotte and Sam, if Sam were a better guy, how would he have handled the same situation? Now, we don't know why Sam suddenly had to change his plans with Charlotte, right? But if he texted her, hey hon, I can't make it, something came up, right? The first thing I'm doing if I'm Sam is owning it, apologizing it, and explaining it. First thing you should probably do is call to explain it. If he does it by text, then he has to explain why, not just what, not just I can't see you. Explain why, give it some context. And if Charlotte remains upset, right, acknowledge, honey, I understand why you feel upset. I would feel upset if you change plans on me at the last minute, right? Validate that she has a right to feel that way. Right? And if she continues to feel sad within a reasonable range, right, then, listen, I'm sorry, I'll explain more later. I'll come over tonight and I'll make it up to you, right? XO Sam, right? If you're going to do it by text instead of phone, right? There's a number of ways that a healthy guy would have handled that same exact situation differently, right? But he didn't. That's the thing that Charlotte was sweeping under the rug. He didn't do any of those things, right? He used this as an excuse to break off something that was promising, right? So I want you to take a second to think about your most serious relationship or your previous relationship. Were you able to make mistakes and be forgiven, right? Or were you like I was back in my single days with a couple of women that I was mad about? Were you always walking on eggshells, fearful of that something you said or did would precipitate a fight or a breakup? Disagreements in marriage are normal. Two people are never, ever going to think exactly alike. What's not normal, that people have standardized as normal, slamming doors, silent treatments, name-calling, passive-aggressive, right? Threatening to break up, actually breaking up, right? Over things that should really just be like a little bump in the road. And my wife and I, again, we're not perfect, but our arguments last for 30 seconds, 5 minutes maybe, before we realize, okay, this is a thing we have to deal with. We're going to disagree, we're going to have it out, and then we're going to circle back and pull together, because it's never, ever worth it. Nothing is worth sacrificing the larger relationship for. So realize that with the right guy, you could have these kind of relationship discussions where they don't blow out of control, right? And you could rest assured that when you're with the right guy, you can't do the wrong thing. I hope you realize that, and I hope you make better choices with men so you don't have to keep on beating yourself up. This has been the Love You Podcast. My name is Marc Katz. I want to thank you for being here. I really enjoy this, and I look forward to making more of these. The next one we're going to do is a tough question that may be hard for you to answer truthfully. Are you overestimating yourself? I think we all do. And not to tip off where I'm going to go, but I think we all overestimate ourselves a little bit. I'll explain why next week on the Love You Podcast. And if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and go to www.evanmarkkatz.com. Give me your email address and I will send you free dating and relationship advice to help you understand men and find love. Thank you so much for your time. I'll talk to you next week.